Hi, and welcome back. So now let's look at deleting properties. Now I want to caution you, we're not actually deleting the property from the class. We're talking about deleting properties from instances. So it's kind of a little different. There's actually, a difference here, and let me highlight this. So we can delete attributes from objects, right? If C, let's say, is an instance of the circle class, we can set the color attribute to yellow, right? And then we can read the attribute back from the instance, because now color is going to be in our instance dictionary, right? And we can delete that from the instance dictionary. We can either use the delete keyword, or we can use the del_attr function, the delete attribute function. And in both cases, once we've executed this code, if we try and get color again, we're going to get an attribute error because color doesn't exist in the instance. Now, we can also support deleting properties from an instance object. And that's the deleter argument of the property initializer. So we saw that when we have the property, we have the fget, fset, and fdel arguments, right? We can also use the deleter method on the properties using the same decorator syntax that we had before. So we generally use those to perform some kind of cleanup activity upon deletion of the property from the instance. I want to again emphasize we are deleting something from the instance, not from the class. The class still has an attribute that happens to be a property instance. But now when we use the delete, we are actually doing code at the instance level, not at the class level, because we're calling a method bound to the instance. So it's not used very often. And again, it's important that calling the deleter runs the code contained in the deleter method. That's all it does. There's nothing else going on. Just like the getter and the setter runs the code in the get and set methods, the deleter is just going to run the code in the delete method. That's all, in our delete method, right? It does not remove the property from the class. That's the key thing here. And I'll show you that in the code. So it just calls the deleter method. So let's take a look at this class. So we've got this class circle, we've got the init, we've got a get color, set color, and a delete color. These are three methods. And now we create a color property. We use the property instantiator, so property, and we pass it get color, set color, and delete color. So now it has its fget, fset, and fdel defined, right? So when this method is invoked, what is this going to do? It's going to remove the underscore color attribute from the instance namespace. That's all it's doing. It's not modifying the class, as you can see. It's just modifying something in the instance. So when we create an instance of color, let's say C equals color yellow, then our instance dictionary has this underscore color. That's what we defined in the init, right? We set the underscore color, which is in the instance namespace, to this value here. So that's what we have. Now we can access it using dot notation. We could use the get attribute function as well. But if we use c.color, it's going to look up basically using the getColor method. And that's just returning self._color. So it's going to look it up in the instance dictionary. It's going to find it there and return yellow. Now if we say delete c.color, that is just going to run the delete color method. Which means what? Means our instance dictionary now is empty because we've removed this key underscore color from the instance dictionary. That's all that happened. And so now if we try and say c.color or c._color, we're going to get an attribute error because that attribute no longer exists in the instance. Now the color is still a property of the class. That hasn't gone away. Okay? So we can also use the decorator syntax. Instead of doing it that way, we can say @property, @color.setter, and then @color.deleter. And again, we have to make sure we use the same name for the functions here to make sure that our attribute at the end of the day is called color. And so we're just doing the same work. We're just using the decorator syntax to do it. So now we can say C equals unit circle red. And then our dictionary for C basically has this underscore color in it, right? We can call the delete. We can use the del keyword, right? Or we could use the del adder function, or we can just use the del keyword. That's going to run the deleter method. And so now our dictionary will be once more empty. And if we try and access it, we're going to get an attribute error. Not because color is no longer a property on the class, but because color is trying to access the underscore color attribute. And that's not in the dictionary. That's what's causing the attribute error. Okay? But the property still exists. It's defined at the class level, which means that we can do this. We've just deleted color from C. We can now redefine it. We can say C.color equals blue. Color is an attribute of the class. It's a property type. And so it's going to run the setter. So it's going to run this function over here. And so now, once more, we're going to have underscore color in our instance dictionary with the new value blue. And of course, we can access it using dot notation or the getAdder function. All right, so let's look at some code and try all that out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.